Well, hi, welcome back. We're so glad to see you. Mama Judy and I this week are joined by a wonderful guest. Her name is Kimberly Mason, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself today. But how this interview came up is Kimberly and I bumped into each other at a concert down here in Asheville, North Carolina. And we had a little conversation about being artistic and being creative and some things around that. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. But first of all, Kimberly, welcome. And why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am a mom and a wife and a pathologist, which is, for those of you who don't know, is a tissue doctor, a laboratory doctor. And you may be familiar with the show CSI and be thinking I'm a forensic pathologist and I do death investigation. That is not what I do. I look at pieces of live people as opposed to the alternative in CSI, the whole dead person. So that's what I do for my professional life, and but I spent a lot of time doing mom family stuff too. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Hey, Mama Judy.
Hey, Jill. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Judy. Great to
It's
meet
okay.
you.
You can call her Mama Judy.
Mama Judy. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we are going to get started with a sentence we went back and forth with emails a little bit. And Kimberly's, the way that she told me something about before we got started on the podcast, I thought was very interesting, which we thought Mama Judy and I thought could be a good jumping off point. You said, I'm not really an actively creative person in the way I think I'd like to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just love that, and I'm of course looking at the way I think I'd like to be, which is very intriguing to me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think we would love for our audience. We have a lot of creative people that are listening, but there's still people out there that are listening that they're not sure. They may have reservations about jumping into being creative for whatever different reasons. So today we're going to learn a little bit about you and maybe figure out what's going on and see if there's something you'd like to expand on creatively. And we just thought this would be a fun chat.
Yeah, good. Well, as far as like how I'd like to be, is that what you're asking me to expand upon a little bit?
Yeah, or that, but
how I think I'd like to be, rather. Well, I love seeing what people create and learning about their process and what they're expressing and that sort of thing. And I feel like they're like I would like to generate more of that myself, but I don't know that I'm not sure what stumps me if I believe that I don't have it in me, or it's just not going to be good enough if it is there, or if it's not worth the effort. Because I've always kind of enjoyed artistic endeavors, but I've always let other things come ahead of those. So I was a science math girl who kept putting the art classes off. And, I just stuck with science math. It served me well. And I just kind of didn't really make much time for the art part. Now and then I'll put a little bit of energy or effort or time into it. And it's kind of fun. But I think I'm a little afraid to put too much into it because I'm afraid of being disappointed. Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
So, but does that resonate with you, Jill, or Mama Judy?
Absolutely.
You're disappointing yourself?
Absolutely. I think it's a common thing, Kimberly.
Mm-hmm.
All of us. Before I say this, let me just say that some of the most artistic people I have run into are what surprised me, in that they're left brain science people.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have this wonderful artistic side. So all you need to do is develop that side.
Mm-hmm.
But from what you said, I think one of the most common things for all of us, and this goes for experienced artists, we're very, very vulnerable when we put our stuff out there.
Oh, yes.
And I think what happens is, perhaps somewhere along the line, maybe when we were young kids, we got hurt when we expressed our vulnerability. So we have a tendency to lock it inside. Mm-hmm. And that alone, I think, can keep a person from going forward if we don't feel safe. Mm-hmm. And so what has helped me in the past, when I get to feeling like that, or especially when I was younger, I would only show my stuff to people that I trusted. And by that, I mean people that I feel comfortable if they gave me a critique that wasn't as flattering as I wanted it to be, I would not get put off by that. But I think that vulnerability, exposing our underbelly, so to speak, because when you create, no matter what it is, it's really coming from the heart, from that unspoken, unseen part of ourselves. And it's tough to put it out there for the world. And I'm going to use a word from your profession. It's hard to put anything out there and let the world dissect it, which is what happens when we put something out there for people to look at. They dissect it. And that can be a very, very scary place to go. And so for anybody, including in my past and people listening, that's something you want to take in very tiny steps. And maybe the first step is just a self-analysis. If when you're by yourself, you ask yourself what's holding you back, if you get an emotional charge from something like somebody might not like what I do, then you can just bet that's where it's coming from. And then once you identify it, it's a lot easier. It's like bringing the boogeyman out of the closet when you were a kid. Once you bring something to light, then you can work with it.
I have a question. So when you've dabbled or done some creative expression in the past, what was it like? Are you drawn to a certain medium, or what do you like to do?
Well, I like to, I've had the most success with photography. And I think it's because I can sort of do the composition instantaneously and capture it without the all of the hard parts of collecting the materials and planning it out. And because I'm not a great planner or organizer, the frontal lobe stuff is kind of not great. It's not great. Like I love order, but I'm not good at creating order, that sort of thing. But so with photography, I can just kind of compose, I can see it and take the picture and capture it. So I've had the most success with that probably, but different things. I love to make art with the kids. And so I've had a lot of fun just doing I actually got a few things. So I made these little things with my daughter. It's cardboard that we put crayon, chalk on, and made these little monsters and then put a magnet on the back.
How
So,
okay, so if you're listening to audio only, go over to the Facebook page.
Okay.
The YouTube page, and I'll tell them where they can look and see this sweet little.
It's cute, right? I mean, we used recycled materials, and she sells them at this little festival we go to called Leaf. So I've had so kind of the I think the low stakes, low pressure kind of things like doing crafting with the kids with recycled materials. There's no financial outlay or expectation, and I think that's another place that I've had pretty good success.
I was going to say, you just reminded me, I did the same because I have only stepped into my creative expression in a more confident way over the last year and a half or so with a lot of Mama Judy's guidance. But when Billy was younger, we would go to town with the construction paper, doing Halloween stuff in the window, and I had so much fun, and I almost felt like, well, this is just for little kids stuff. So I was probably feeling like, it's more cutting out for him, this image, but I mean, I had so much fun, and I didn't feel like I was going to be judged by it. It was just fun and seeing it through his eyes. I think that's probably a common thing for mamas. If we don't consider ourselves creatives, we get into that expression of being creative, which is still being very creative, but it's a little bit more protected.
Yes, more protected. I think that's true. More accessible that way. And we wouldn't judge our children's work, so we don't turn that same eye on ourselves, I think, too.
Yes,
absolutely. And you have really hit upon some key words, Kimberly. Expectations, judgment, protection. That's what it's all about. So your steps, and I am going to call it your artistic steps of working with your kids, is a wonderful foundation, because the more you do with them and you see their success, it'll feed into the way you feel about your success when you choose to develop it.
Okay.
Obviously, right now, with a full-time job, being a mother, being a wife, perhaps there isn't enough time to consistently do what you want to do, but every step you take like that is fantastic, and I love it. And I absolutely love the fact that your daughter is selling them, because I follow an artist in New Mexico, and I would say this woman is probably in her 60s, who makes animals that she sells that your daughter's work reminds me of.
Oh.
So that is not just child's art, that is
Okay.
art.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is what people would call a primitive art,
Yeah.
Americana. So that whole process is absolutely wonderful.
Oh, good. Well, thanks. Well, it's gratifying for me. I think it's really fun.
And that is the word you never want to lose track of, no matter how hard things get in your developing your own art in the future. Always remember, fun has to be the number one thing. It doesn't mean you won't work hard at it, but if it's not fun, step back and take a break.
Mm.
Yes, gratifying. Well, Kimberly, I'm curious, with your photography then, do you take pictures? Would you have like a good like a DSLR? Do you use your iPhone or both? And do you carry it with you, or is it kind of tucked away?
I have a DSL, a single lens reflex, SLR, right? Yeah. So, and it's digital, so I guess that makes it a DSLR. I had a film camera that I really loved, and I actually took some darkroom classes years ago when we lived in Memphis, and that was a lot of fun. And when we bought our house in Asheville, there's a basement with a bathroom, and I thought future darkroom. But that organization, creating order, part of my brain that is not so great. The darkroom has not ever happened, but maybe one day, if those materials are still available. I don't even know if you can get darkroom materials anymore with all the digital, but I have had fun with my digital camera. And now with editing tools and all of that can be a lot of fun. And the cameras on the phone are really good too, if you're not gonna, enlarge it.
Right.
And
resolution isn't as good on those, but yeah. So,
and there are some wonderful, products, not Photoshop, but I mean professional type products out there that you don't have to do the dark room in order to do the things on your iPhone that you would normally do in a dark room. There's some great products out there.
There are. I've played with them a little bit, and just a little over my head, a little too technical for me. I haven't become adept at using those, but I can use the Apple tools pretty well on the iPhone and on the computer. So I don't know, but it's fun.
Well, at least you have those techniques to continue to play around with. And as you get more familiar with those, then your interest in doing it will probably increase, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay, so I have a question then.
Okay.
And just because we had this conversation, we've kind of talked about maybe some underlying fears or, things that come up for all of us. And at this point, are you in any way looking, is it something that you really want to make a bigger part of your life? Is it something that's kind of been nudging you inside
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There's a desire there, but I'm a person who kind of I do need a little nudge. I need a little direction. I need a little plan. I think that's why every now and then I'll sign up for a class and whatever. I did do a little sketching class, and that was fun, but that ended, and the sketching ended, and I took a little pottery class, and that ended, and probably won't do that again. I don't think that's my medium. But so, yeah, but I think it would be great if I did a little something every day, even if it's just a little tiny bite. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I think there's some perfectionism in there for sure. Something kind of is in my way. Like maybe I need a prescription or something, a plan. Somebody help me come up with a plan.
I just want to mention one thing that is, Inktober. So it's different than with photography because my son Billy, he's a real good sketcher drawer, but he does it some, but in October he commits to doing it for the 31 days and you post it on Instagram. So it holds you accountable, but something like that could be interesting. And
it could be.
Yeah. And maybe if it were around your photography, there's probably challenges like that where post a picture a day, whatever it is.
Okay.
And, even if it's just something simple or,
I hadn't thought about that, about playing, the social media kind of approach. I've not thought about that. I'm not much of a putting myself out there person with these things. So that sounds scary to me, but
yeah,
maybe something worth considering.
One good place to start, because what you're doing when you do that is that's your first foray out into the big wide world with your art. And there are a lot of things, like Jill said, like on Facebook, for example, people will challenge other people. Okay, I've been nominated by XYZ to put a picture a day that I draw out there. And that's a nice environment because both it's safe because people are out there that are not necessarily out there to critique your work, but it gets you into the habit of going, I can do this. I can put something out there. And one of the biggest things is if you do, just be okay with whatever comments or the amount of likes. And the reason I say this is I have suggested in the past to people to try something out on Facebook, but then they said they would sit around looking at Facebook waiting for people to like their picture. Well, that isn't gonna work.
I know.
So if you chose to do something like that, Kimberly, really it's for you. It's not for anybody else. It's just something for you to say, okay, I can do this. I can take this step. I will take this step. And that's all that it's there for. It's not for anybody else. It's not to collect those, oh, so-and-so likes me. It's just you taking that step into a brand new world.
And Kimberly, that's how I started doing my stitching stuff. I started a separate Instagram account just for my art stuff. And I thought if I tell myself I'm going to post pretty frequently something that I'm stitching, I will hold myself accountable. So I started doing that, but it was more for me. And I am so grateful now that I did that because number one, there's this cool like arty community that I'm now part of that I never would have known about. But more importantly, it's fun to look back. If you could look back at your photographs or I'm looking back at my stitching stuff and see how I've grown. And also, you have that archive and also seeing where I knew when I see something, I knew I was struggling with perfectionism there, or I was so scared and embarrassed to post that. But I told myself I have to, because I said I'm going to, and it felt like when I posted, I literally felt like, looks like a 4-year-old created this. And it was kind of embarrassing, but I did it anyway. And so now it was kind of, I felt like I needed that to push myself to be creative. Because if I were just to say to Mama Judy, I'll do some stuff or whatever, it wasn't going to hold me enough accountable. So that is why I created my Instagram art account. And now I'm so grateful I did.
Kimberly, I just want to say one thing. You talked about trying pottery. You tried sketching. That's great, because what you're doing without any expectations there, you're exploring to find the medium that grabs your heart. Over the years, I've done beaded jewelry, bead embroidery, stained glass, felting, painting, mixed media, you name it. I've probably tried it one time. And each one of those for a very short period of time grabbed me, but then they went away. And I realized, like you said, well, that stopped when the class was done. So when you do that, you're just exploring, and then just tell yourself, well, that one really didn't grab me. And that's okay, because
Okay.
you've learned through every single one of those classes that you've taken.
Good. Yeah, that's really helpful to hear, because sometimes I think maybe it's my fault, like I wasn't good at it.
Nope.
And I've kind of failed myself, especially when I see other people in the class doing really well. That whole comparison is the thief of joy thing. I've experienced that a lot.
Yep. We all do.
Mm-hmm. So that's lovely to hear. And, kind of, I see that in my work too. I mean, if we have a difficult case, it's good to be able to eliminate a possible diagnosis, as we narrow down the possibilities, and we can find the right one by narrowing the possibilities. So
that's exactly what you're doing and
I guess so.
Yeah, that's perfect. And maybe then, Kimberly, by relating it back to what you do and that you're comfortable with at work, it will feel okay from this point on to take a class now and then and not feel that because it didn't grab you, it was your fault. Because now you're just eliminating all these possibilities out there. Some people are very lucky in that something grabs them from the beginning and that's it, they hang on. But there are a lot of us out there that have to go searching and exploring and experimenting. And that's all part of your artistic process. So is your children's work.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing that. I mean, because when you say it, I think, well, of course. So I sort of know this intellectually, but I don't know, emotionally, I don't. I mean, sometimes there are different parts of your brain that are in conflict, and, so it's good to hear it from you.
Well, and that what you just described is exactly what happens with everything with the human being. I don't care what it is. We can know it intellectually, but we don't really know it until we know it emotionally.
Yeah.
That's the most important, because the brain is good at, as you know, figuring out, solving problems. But the emotional part is hooked to the heart and the soul. And that's when you really can go, oh, wow, I get it. And so that's all you're doing. You're giving that child within you, just like you're giving your children the option to go out and play and find something they enjoy. By taking all these courses, you're giving that child within you, which probably has gotten buried beneath the pathologist.
Probably. Poor
to go
thing.
out and have fun. Go out with your kids with a box of chalk and take care of all the sidewalks around town with chalk painting, and go with them and have fun, because that's how you're going to find what your child wants, your inner child wants.
I love that.
Well,
Good.
and
Really fun.
I have another suggestion, because we did a podcast on this where Mama Judy and I talked about having play dates with other.
I was just listening to that one this morning.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a sign. I feel like you need to have a play date with someone.
Yes, I do too.
That, and also if it's a somewhat consistent thing, then you can show up. And even if you were to come over, we should have a little play date. You come over, and even if it's you bringing your phone and you're going to do some editing on some photos while I'm sitting there stitching, and we can just visit, that would be fun.
I would love it.
Yeah, because I do think it helps to have something to look forward to the next time to hold us accountable. It sounds like that might be the case for you, because I've taken other courses too, or classes. And then once the attention's done and the homework's done, I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like you said earlier, you kind of want a step-by-step plan, or at least somebody kind of going alongside and bouncing ideas off or something.
Well, I mean, I've experienced before that having a community around you just increases your success of whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yes,
So yeah, I could see how, and you too mentioned that finding a community on Instagram or in, social media really helped you along the process. So
It did.
um, yeah, I think that could do a lot for me.
Well, good.
that's and that's the other thing that as you were talking, Kimberly, that I wanted to remind you, because we all know it again, it just you might have a goal out there,
Mhm.
what eventually you'd like to be able to do. But you're right, it can seem very, very overwhelming. And just take it one tiny little step at a time, and eventually you'll be there when you're ready to be there. But it's not an all or nothing type of thing, which oftentimes we do. Oh, well, I can't paint like Monet, so I guess I won't start.
Definitely
You,
guilty of that thinking.
yeah, we
Yeah.
all are.
Yeah. Okay.
But just that one step at a time, because if you think about it, how silly are we as human beings to think that we can go from 0 to 100% without ever putting in the time to learn how to get from 0 to 100. In a way, we're kind of being a little egoistic in that respect.
Yeah, I can relate to that too.
But it's scary sometimes, overwhelming too, to look and go, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get there.
Mhm.
And so whatever class you take, whatever photography technique you work on, whatever play date, every one of those is a building block to the future artist that you will become.
So validating to hear you say that, because I think I have actually said that to myself before, but I'm skeptical somehow,
Yeah, that's a very common thing too. We're skeptical because we don't think that we have the talent enough to do something like that. We dismiss ourselves
Mhm.
too easily. We give that power of being a great artist over to other people without giving ourselves the chance to see whether or not we can really do what we think we would like to do. And again, that's a very human characteristic. The only thing that stands between you or me and being a great artist is
I
ourselves.
know.
I and I wish I'd quit getting
That's a
in my
significant
way.
obstacle, though.
That's right. Sometimes I have to slap her and get her out of the way.
I
Well,
mean, a friend told me recently about a painter who's paralyzed from the neck down. He paints with his mouth, these beautiful paintings. I'm like, oh, and I have two hands and I won't get out there and do it.
We just have to get out of our way. Let me just tell you guys both what my activity as far as my art was today.
Oh.
I took a piece of paper and pasted other pieces of paper on it. That's all I did all morning to make pages for future journals. But that step is an artistic step in what I want to create. So artistic steps are sometimes very mundane and very simple, but they're all part of the process.
yes.
Good perspective.
What do you think about us? Well, us suggesting a challenge for you today.
Sure, I'm up for it.
Okay. Of course, you have to tell us also what you want to do, but what sounds good? And then we could even say, let's just say for the next 2 weeks, 14 days, let's just talk this out. We haven't talked about this yet, but could you commit to do one thing every day? And what you do is you email us the picture, or if you decide you're going to create an art account or just put it on your own, just post it there if you want to do that. But we don't want to force you into doing a social media account if you don't want to. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Okay.
Should I
Okay.
tell you what it will be, or can it be a different thing every day? I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah. What do
Okay.
you think? Tell us what sounds good to you and feels good to you.
Oh gosh. I'm one of these people who kind of I see the appeal in everything. Like I would like to have some of that and some of that. And
I
so,
know.
I don't know, what should I do?
I have an
This is why
idea.
direction is helpful for
Okay,
me.
I have an idea, and then
Okay.
maybe if Mama Judy has a different idea, you pick what you want. But one thing I could think of is we get off this call and you
Mhm.
sit down and you just think of 14 words. It could be orange, leaf, couch. You could look around your
Okay.
window, light, whatever. Write 14 words down
Okay.
and then start from the top. And the first word on the list is tomorrow. And if the word was shade or lamp or something like that, you take what feels good to you. If you're going to do photography, if you decide to sketch or whatever you do, but it has something to do with
Does that
capturing
work?
an
Ooh, I
image.
love that idea.
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Yeah.
I need something to narrow it down so I have a very specific focus.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll just kind of get overwhelmed. So I
Okay,
love that.
Okay, so when we jump off, if you have
Good
time now,
prescription.
just jot your words down, look around, think of, and maybe just the word comes to you that you love. It doesn't have to be in your eyesight. So
Okay.
do we want to do 14 days?
Yeah. 14 days. Sure.
14 days. And then we could jump back on Zoom and you could just give us your little update. What do you think about that?
Sure. Yeah.
How you felt about it? And I know this is asking a lot too, so you don't have to do this, but it would be interesting if you ever felt like to jot down if you were feeling emotions or something, like either, wow,
Sure.
I just felt pure joy this day. Some days I felt fear. It'd be interesting to hear because I know so many of us can relate. We've been there.
Yeah.
How's that sound for instance?
Absolutely.
I think that will be very
that would be
interesting. It'll be
wonderful.
interesting for me, so hopefully for others too.
Okay.
It will, trust me, Kimberly, it will be for others also.
Okay. Well,
And
maybe
I
some
think,
other people would like to join us in this project. I don't know.
yes, I'm thinking the same. I'm going to join it. I'm going to
Okay.
join the challenge.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's probably going to have to do something with stitching or paper collage. But every day I'm going to do the same thing when I get off. I'm going to write 14 words down. And then what we'll do is we'll just come back together for 5-10 minute video to tag on to the end of this in a few weeks. So we'll just do that before this episode airs so that we can have that all together.
Yes.
Well, this has been fun. Any final imparting words of wisdom, Mama Judy?
No, you're on the right track. And Kimberly, I suspect in your heart, you know everything you need to do,
Oh,
and just one step at a time.
I love that. One step at a time. That is great advice. I love it. Thank you for, I feel honored to be the recipient of all this positive attention and encouragement. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. You know, we have, Jill and I love to sit and talk with each other, but our goal is to talk with as many people as we can, people that go through the same human experience around art that we've gone through. And there is a lot of just simple human commonality around being artistic and artists, the journey, everything. So thank you so much for being part of it.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, this was fun. All right. Well, thank you. And we'll be back again in the weeks to come to have a little recap to see how this all went for all three of us. One thing I don't know if we made it clear is I think the fact that just doing something every day, whether it's 14 days, 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, helps you build your confidence, get into that zone, feel the good feels that it can be to create something. And that will help you get that momentum going.
I love
Absolutely.
All right.
It's a worthwhile undertaking for sure. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Love you, Mama Judy. Bye,
All
Kimberly.
right,
Thanks for being with us today.
Bye.
Okay, so we have gathered back together with Kimberly. And what we've done is Kimberly and I both decided to do 14 days of something every day. And Kimberly and I texted back and forth a few times or throughout the little bit of a challenge for each other. And I asked you, Kimberly, well, first of all, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And I had texted you and I the other day and I said, about how long? So we each did something artistic for a little bit each day for 14 days straight, just to have that consistency and to get that momentum going. And I asked you, how long are you spending on each time? And you came back and said no more than like 10 minutes, I think
I
you
would
said.
say like 5 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect.
And that was the same with me. So first of all, give the audience a little bit of a peek into the types of art that you ended up doing.
Okay.
First of all, just tell us a little bit about that for the 14 days.
Yeah, well, I explored a few different media, I guess. I got some Fimo clay out and made some small food items. I guess I made a banana and a carrot. And that was really fun because I put little brown streaks on the banana and the little sticker on the banana. It was so fun doing the details. And then I baked that in the oven and it was just adorable. And I actually gave that banana to my friend who ran the Chicago Marathon and she carried it with her as a good luck talisman. How about that?
Oh, that's
Isn't that cute? Yeah, but anyway, so I did that. I did a lot of I leaned pretty hard on just felt tip pens and watercolors because they're just so easy. And I went out of town for part of that time, and I just threw them in the suitcase because they were not, they didn't take up much room. I just sat on the hotel room bed and did my little watercolor and my drawing in my watercolor. And watercolor is just such a quick, easy way to add a little satisfying amount of color. I found.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess really and when I did a little collage, I made some tiny collages.
Excellent.
And if you're listening, so the day that this goes live, I'm going to go ahead and share on Instagram both all the images of what Kimberly did as well as the things that I did. And just to let you know, listening, I did a little tiny, like maybe 2" by 2" or 2" by 4" paper collage type journal. And so that was fun for me. So I too only spent 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes stitching each day and doing some stuff like that. So what did you find, Kimberly? Two questions. Did you enjoy it? Did it inspire some new something in you? And also, will you go forward and incorporate some sort of artistic, creative type stuff on your daily or weekly basis?
I definitely enjoyed it. I kind of felt like it was I usually did it in the morning, not always. And as you know, there were a couple of days in there that I just didn't get to it. And I did 2 the next day. So I was not strict in my regimen. But I found it best when I did it in the morning. And it was sort of like I don't know, it's kind of grounding in a way. I felt like gave me a little lift to start the day. And I kind of felt like I was starting with a little fuller tank than I might otherwise have, mood wise or whatever, energy wise. So, so yes, I want to keep doing it. Have I? I haven't yet, but I'm going to. I have plans to make a little something. I have an hour to kill while my daughter's in her dance class later today. And so I'm going to do a little art during that time. So I'm already starting to kind of plan ahead, like, that might be a good time. If I don't get to it in the morning, then, I find a time later in the day.
Yes.
Because I did really get something out of it. And I didn't enjoy them all equally. I enjoyed some things more than others. But I had moments of kind of frustration. I think there were a couple of times I started over, or I just discarded the thing. But I still didn't ever spend a lot of time. But I found that I did enjoy some things maybe more than others. I loved making the little fruits with the Fimo clay. That was a lot of fun.
And that's something you could travel with too, right? You can't bake it, but you can take some.
Yeah, you can't bake it, but you can certainly travel with it. Yeah, and it's firm enough that it can probably hold up until you get to an oven, if you're careful with it.
I love your description.
Oh,
you said that by doing it in the morning, you felt more full, more energetic. That is such a great statement. Because I think art does do that. It makes us feel lighter.
And I like, you also said grounded.
Yeah.
That to me also I feel grounded as well. And you said that you did it mostly in the morning. And so she was texting me. And so sometimes I may have already kind of got going in my day, forgotten. I'm like, oh, Kimberly just texted me. I got to go do my thing. But I think one thing I will always do is set a timer on my phone just every morning, even if it's at like 6:30 a.m. art, something as a reminder. Cause like you said, you've kind of fallen off because we said we were going to do the 14 days and kind of fall off. And me too. I've not, I've still done a little something every day, but not like this. And so sometimes even a reminder or something like that could be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's where the community comes in.
Yep.
Excellent.
The checking in.
Yes.
Not in a shaming or guilting way, but just in a like, I'm doing mine now. You want to join me or that sort of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, any other questions or thoughts?
No, I think everything you've said is exactly what we were hoping for.
Oh, yeah, good. Well, it was a nice discovery for me to make.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
how nice, how good it made me feel. Yeah.
And what you've shared with us in this whole thing, I think will be helpful to other people.
I would love that. That would make me feel great.
And if we get any feedback, we'll let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you will.
Okay.
Well, good. Well, I'm going to be checking in with you and we'll probably get together in person.
I'll send you what I do today.
Okay, good.
And I loved your banana. I was so impressed. I really was. Because I'm
glad you loved it. I loved it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to see too. And you did a rose one time. You did this rose drawing, which I'm like, if you ever want to give that rose drawing to anyone, you can send it to me.
It's yours.
That is gorgeous. When I saw that, but I was
so
surprised
funny because when I was drawing it, I thought this is not coming together. Oh, this is terrible. And then I put the color on it. I was like, oh, it's not so bad actually. I ended up being kind of happy with it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Right there, Kimberly, you even just gave an example of what we talked about in one episode where sometimes something doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And then something happens, either time or you add another layer and all of a sudden you like it. So it's great.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, and I'll tell you one more thing. My niece visited during this period, my 28-year-old niece, and she too has felt intimidated. She's had interest in doing art, but felt intimidated. So we just did a little project together, and she had the same process where she was like, I don't think this is good. I don't like this. And I made a couple of suggestions, and she did that and another thing or two, and then she was really happy with it.
Oh,
so she had a lot of fun too. Yeah, so
special.
Good.
Already got another convert. How about
that? Good.
Well, thank you for being our kind of guinea pig in a way. And
My pleasure.
So pleasantly surprised though, just to see the creativity that came out of you through this thing. I mean, it was really fun to see. And I loved seeing you trying different things. And now you've determined like what you like best. If you would have just done sketches every time, you wouldn't have known if you like to do that type of clay stuff. So yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll see you soon and happy creating.
Okay. Same to you. Same to both of you. Thank you so much. This was really fun for me.
Good. Bye, Kimberly.
Bye, guys.